Once again, the FIA was handing out penalty points like hotcakes at the Austrian Grand Prix just gone. As a result, a number of Formula 1 drivers have seen their points totals rise significantly on their licenses. It's therefore high time that we took a look at how many penalty points all of these drivers have and how exactly they came to accumulate these points on their licenses. I'm Ollie Wilson for GPFans, and these are the bad boys of Formula 1 at the moment as it stands. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below to stay up to date with all the news, views and specials like this here at GPFans. Now, let's see who's topping the penalty point charts. Now, before we go any further, it's important to explain a couple of things. In total, a driver may have a maximum of 11 penalty points to their name over a period of 12 months in F1. As soon as a driver has collected 12 points, they get a race ban. How many penalty points someone gets depends on several factors. These include things like the seriousness of the offence, the way in which similar incidents have been assessed in the past, and whether there are any mitigating circumstances. Exactly 1 year after the issue, the penalty points expire again. Lando Norris tops the standings with 10 points. He received the first 2 penalty points last year at the Grand Prix of Styria when he overtook somebody under yellow flags. A few months later, during the Turkish Grand Prix, things went wrong again under the yellows. This time Norris hadn't slowed down enough according to race officials, and this added another 3 penalty points to his tally. The 2021 season has seen Norris regularly locking horns with the FIA and their regulations. Earlier this year, during qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Norris was caught out under red flags because he was unsure whether to enter the pit lane or not. Once he passed the start-finish, it turned out that yes, he should have come into the pits. He received 3 penalty points on his licence for this because of dangerous behaviour. The final 2 points on his licence cropped up at the Austrian Grand Prix just gone during his tussle with Sergio Perez. The McLaren driver tried to prevent Perez overtaking him around the outside of turn 4 early on in the race, forcing the Mexican driver wide and off the track, unfairly, according to the stewards at least. For this, he got 2 extra points added to his licence. Now, there is good news for Lando. He will soon get some breathing room because on July 10th, 2 of those points from the Styrian Grand Prix last year will be cleared from his licence. After that date, he will have to keep calm for another 4 months though, because the penalty points that expire next off his licence come off in November 2021. We were talking about Sergio Perez just a moment ago, right? And his tussle with Lando Norris in Austria? Well, he's not exactly got a clean record himself, with 8 points on his licence at the moment. Last year at the Spanish Grand Prix, Perez was penalised 1 point for ignoring blue flags. After the Grand Prix of Tuscany, another penalty was added for causing a crash with Kimi Raikkonen. He's also picked up a few penalty points in 2021. During the Grand Prix of Emilia-Romagna, 2 points were added for overtaking under the safety car. And then last weekend in Austria, another 4 penalty points were added to his licence because he forced Charles Leclerc off the track twice during the race. Kimi Raikkonen comes third on our list with 6 penalty points to his name. He received his first penalty point at the Hungarian Grand Prix last year for parking his car incorrectly on the grid. Not long after that, at the Grand Prix of Tuscany, his second penalty point followed, with the Finn was penalised for entering the pit lane the wrong way. During the Eiffel Grand Prix, he was again credited with 2 penalty points for causing a collision with George Russell. And then last weekend, Raikkonen was charged with 2 more points for causing a crash between he and Sebastian Vettel in the closing stages of the Austrian Grand Prix. George Russell is up next on our list. Now, he may have just missed out on a point-scoring finish in Austria, but the British driver has managed to collect 6 penalty points to his name in the last 12 months. He received his first 3 penalty points last year at the British Grand Prix for not braking enough under the yellow flag. He failed to learn from this as well, and previous misconduct came back to haunt him at the Turkish Grand Prix last year, which resulted once again in another 3-point penalty for the same offence. Vettel started the 2021 season clean as a whistle, without any penalty points on his licence, but this season he's managed to add 6 to his name. 5 of these were achieved during a single race weekend, namely the weekend of the Bahrain Grand Prix. In the final phase of qualifying on Saturday, Nikita Mazepin had a spin, causing yellow flags to be waved. Vettel went off the gas a little too late, resulting in a grid penalty and 3 penalty points. However, it didn't stop there, because things went wrong again in the final phase of the race, when the German managed to send his Aston Martin into the back of Esteban Ocon's Alpine, giving him another 2 penalty points.
Next up, we have Nicholas Latifi on 6 points. Now, Latifi started the 2021 Formula 1 season neatly without any penalty points whatsoever, but already has 6 to his name. He received his first penalty points of the year at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix due to a miscommunication. After Max Verstappen's crash, there was a red flag, after which all the drivers had to enter the pits. Latifi was told over the onboard radio to stay out, which he did. It later turned out that the team meant that he should come in instead. The consequence? 3 penalty points on his licence. And during the Austrian Grand Prix, 3 more points were added for not respecting a double yellow flag. Then we come to our next driver on the list, and that is Antonio Giovinazzi. Now, the Alfa Romeo driver currently has 5 points to his name. He was penalised 1 point at the British Grand Prix for not following the safety car rules last year. He also received 2 penalty points at the Italian Grand Prix for entering the pit lane when it was closed due to an incident. And last weekend, he was another of the drivers getting points from the Austrian Grand Prix, as he again received 2 points on his licence. He got this because he overtook Fernando Alonso under the safety car. Now, in Formula 2, Mazepin was visiting the stewards fairly regularly. By the end of the 2020 season, he had no fewer than 11 of the 12 allowed points to his name. You could say that he seems to be extending this momentum into his Formula 1 career. After 9 races, the Russian already has 5 penalty points to his name. He received the first penalty point during the Grand Prix of Portugal for acting incorrectly under a blue flag. During qualifying for the Spanish Grand Prix, he was hit again. This time Mazepin was given a penalty point for hindering Lando Norris. And last weekend, things went wrong in Spielberg. He was penalised for not respecting the double yellow flag, which resulted in no less than 3 penalty points. Lance Stroll is next on our list. Now, he has 4 points to his name. He achieved 3 of these last year during the Grand Prix of Portugal. He got 1 point for ignoring the track limits, 2 penalty points for causing a crash for Verstappen. In addition, this year, during the Grand Prix of Emilia-Romagna, he received an extra penalty point for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Also joining him on 4 is F1 new boy Yuki the Rookie Tsunoda, who has completed 9 races so far, but already racked up a healthy number of points. He received his first penalty point at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix for repeatedly exceeding the track limits. During qualifying for the Grand Prix of Styria, another penalty point followed, this time due to the obstruction of Valtteri Bottas. And during the Austrian Grand Prix, he received 2 more penalty points for entering the pit lane incorrectly. Charles Leclerc. Now, he has 3 penalty points in his possession. Last year, during the first edition of the Grand Prix of Styria, he received 1 penalty point for stopping one of his fellow drivers. The same year, he received 2 more penalty points at the Sakir Grand Prix for causing the crash with Sergio Perez. Since then, he has kept very quiet and no more penalty points have been added. He's been clean this year so far. Well done, Charles. Below him is the remainder of the good boys. Valtteri Bottas has 2 points. He started the season without any penalty points, but now has 2 after he received his 2 penalty points at the Styria Grand Prix for dangerous driving in the pit lane. Lewis Hamilton, he also has 2 points. Prior to the race in Austria, Hamilton still had 6 penalty points to his name, but 4 have already expired. So Hamilton received the remaining 2 penalty points during the Italian Grand Prix because he dived into the pit lane at the last minute when he shouldn't have. Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly all have just 1 point. Esteban Ocon was penalised last year at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix for holding up his competition. Carlos Sainz received the exact same penalty during that year's Turkish Grand Prix. Everybody's favourite Danny Ricciardo received his penalty point at the 2020 Russian Grand Prix for ignoring race management instructions, and Pierre Gasly received 1 penalty point during the Spanish Grand Prix because he had overshot a little too far after his formation lap and was therefore not in his box. Max Verstappen, Mick Schumacher and Fernando Alonso have no penalty points whatsoever on their licence. Very impressive indeed, gentlemen.
We want to know here at GPFans who is your all-time favourite bad boy in Formula 1, or currently on the list that we've just given you. And perhaps are some of these penalty points that have been dished out, particularly in Austria last weekend, a little harsh on the drivers? Let us know, of course, in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all of the F1 news, specials and reactions here with us at GP Fans.